Hello again, and welcome to the Daily Templar Report with me, your guest presenter Jim Dowson, and today we have a special guest, Mr. Nick Griffin. Are you there, Mr. Griffin? Good stuff, and a very happy Thanksgiving to you. Well, you're in for a I've been doing the research, I shall tell you in a wee minute. Anyway, welcome each and every one of you. Thank you for joining us on this very special day, I know, for our American friends. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America. Happy Thanksgiving from all the Knights Templars everywhere else in the world, and our Hungarian Grand Prior especially sends his blessings. Mr. Dr. Trigleshi, Grand Prior, has told me to make sure that I wish you all a very, very happy Thanksgiving from the old Kingdom of Hungary. So there you go. Now, before we bring Mr. Griffin on, I just want to labour a wee bit on this Thanksgiving Day, because I looked into it a wee bit. It was very interesting what I found. So just bear with me. Now, before I do that, I just want to read a wee bit here. We're in chapter 29 of Proverbs, verse 11. It says this: "A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth in till afterwards." As my granny used to say, keep your own counsel, which means shut up and listen, don't just blurt everything out. And we know God will bless this, the public reading of his own infallible, inspired, inerrant word. Amen. Right, let me just get to Thanksgiving here, because I know you want to hear from Mr. Griffin, and I know you want to get stuck into your turkeys. So, Thanksgiving Day. Thanksgiving Day is a holiday celebrated by Americans on the 4th Thursday of November. It celebrates the story of the Pilgrim's meal with the Native Americans and is reserved as a day to spend with loved ones and for giving thanks. Most families observe a large meal and sometimes a religious service. It is common to mark the harvest season with a celebrated meals and festivals of thanks with many religions and communities. A theme that dates back to ancient pagan festivals. Protestant denominations have many connections to the harvest festival of Thanksgiving. Yes, that's my favourite thing. I love the Thanksgiving service. Many see it as a celebration of the harvest, especially farmers, and a commemoration of the Pilgrims' successful harvest with the help of the Native Americans. History of Thanksgiving Day. While the tradition is mainly connected with the Feast of the Pilgrims, the Puritans started the tradition before, Mr. Griffin, before coming to the New World. The Catholic Church had instituted so many special days of remembrance, thanks, feastings, fastings, and resting that the Puritans wanted to remove all holidays and only celebrate days of thanksgiving or days of fasting. These were observed as an act of special providence, which was what is a day of a special day of providence? Well, it's been rescued from serious disasters or threats that the Puritans believed was a result of judgment from God. Events observed with days of thanksgiving before they went to America included the English surviving the mass invasion of the Spanish Armada in 1588 and the 1606 gunpowder plot, which was discovered. So the Puritans were celebrating these already as days of thanksgiving before they went to America. While the American tradition is believed to have origins with the Pilgrim's meal at Plymouth in 1621, this event was not given proper documentation, and many do not wish to involve the relationship with the or look too closely into the relationship with the settlers with Native Americans on this holiday, given the two groups' violent history. Perhaps some things are better left alone, you know what I mean? The story goes, and after the Pilgrims' Plymouth colony had a difficult winter filled with disease, starvation and death, the colony received assistance from Squanto and his Potuck tribe. The Native Americans allegedly taught the Pilgrims to grow their own crops and other methods of survival in the New England environment, in particular the method of using fish to fertilise corn crops. After their first successful harvest, the Pilgrims celebrated with a feast at which Squanto and members of the tribes were in attendance. There are few Thanksgiving traditions beside the meal. Many churches hold a special Thanksgiving Day service centred on giving thanks to God. At the meal, many families observe the ritual of going around the table to express what each member is thankful for. Some family members will travel long distance to attend this yearly reunion. Sounds like a Scottish New Year kind of thing. During the meal, the family may break the turkey wishbone. Whoever pulls away the larger piece is granted a wish. The President of the United States also traditionally pardons a live turkey every year, meaning the turkey will live in a farm without threat of being eaten. Isn't that wonderful? But do you do that, Mr. Griffin, the old wishbone, pulling the wishbone?
Yeah, always did that as a kid, but it's on Christmas Day with the turkey.
Me too.
Yes.
We done that. We grew up with that. We done it. We had chickens. We couldn't afford turkeys. You posh so and so. We had the chicken. But anyway, we all done that. So it shows you how we're all linked and how all the European people really are very closely bonded. Right, enough from me. God bless everybody. We'll not take you too long because I know you want to get to your turkeys in a wee while. Mr. Griffin, what have you got for the good people watching today?
Well, first of all, Jim, a note following on from what you were saying there again. Happy Thanksgiving to all my good American friends and Canadians as well, I believe. Yeah. But anyway, just one note on that. Jimmy said we're all very similar, and this is just like a Scottish New Year's festival. No, it's not, because as you well know, Scottish New Year's festivals always end in violence between close family members and friends.
True. Okay, fair enough.
True. There you go, folks. True. The man admits it. So I was looking initially, Jim, to see what could be said on the latest on the Donald Trump and the stolen election front. And really, it's very difficult because, of course, the whole mass media is so locked down by the Democratic side of this future civil war that it's almost impossible, really, to find any accurate, reliable material to say what's going on. So certainly the Trump team have won a number of victories. They've been rebuffed in other places, Pennsylvania in particular, and are trying to appeal. But even if they had a successful appeal rolling, I don't think we hear about it anywhere from the mainstream news. So all I can say on that front is that I think that his signal that it's okay to sort of start a transition to Biden and co, but it's not going to happen. That was rather odd, and it does to me suggest that there's a lack of thought out strategy. And I still think the most likely thing is, in the end, President Trump will have no choice but to try to do a deal to save his own skin, because otherwise, without a deal, they are going to have a coup. They are going to put him in prison where he will be Epsteined. So it's pretty grim stuff, but it's not over yet. And who knows what's happening behind the scenes the media won't tell us about. But if any of our friends in America have got serious, proper connections other than just internet rumours, and can tell us what is going on, that'd be much appreciated. So moving on, there is one fantastic piece of news out of the United States from the Supreme Court. So we're still talking about courts. On late yesterday, when the Supreme Court ruled that what's his name, Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York, his restrictions shutting down churches because of COVID were illegal and against the US Constitution. Really quite something. So this is the first point at which the fact that there's a new Conservative majority in the Supreme Court had an effect. So the vote, I'm reading here, was 5-4, with Chief Justice John Roberts and the court's 3 Liberal members in dissent. But the order was the first in which the court's newest member, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, played a decisive role. So obviously, having replaced the appalling Ginsburg creature, now things are shifting the other way. So in an unsigned opinion, the majority of the Supreme Court of the United States of America said that Cuomo's restrictions violated the First Amendment's protection of the free exercise of religion. In a concurring opinion, Justice Neil Gorsuch said that Mr. Cuomo had treated secular activities more favourably than religious ones. A surprise there from a Democrat. And he wrote, "It is time, past time, to make plain that while the pandemic poses many grave challenges, there is no world in which the Constitution tolerates colour-coded executive edicts that reopen liquor stores and bike shops, but shutter churches, synagogues and mosques." So that's the long and the short of that. So even though the Democrats are trying to say that a church can have at maximum 25 people turning up, the Supreme Court has just said, no, if the church can hold 1,000, 1,000 can go. It's up to the pastor. It's up to the people to decide if they're more concerned with their mortal health, whether they believe the coronavirus thing or not, or whether they're more concerned about their immortal souls. So a fantastic result there, yeah, Jim, from Supreme Court of America.
Well, very good. And we've got a guy here in Ireland in the south, a Catholic priest, an old boy, and he's just opened his church. To hell with him, he said. He's opened his church, and he's been getting a lot of pushback, as you can imagine. One of your lads have contacted him just to say, well done, God bless you, keep it going. But yeah, this old priest just out in some countryside. Where was that, brother? Cavan, County Cavan. where my family hail from, County Cavan, he's opened his chapel up and said, come to church, don't give a monkeys. And if the police come here, I've got the Irish Constitution, which absolutely enshrines the freedom to worship your God. And so he's ready and waiting for them. They haven't turned up there yet. I would say in a normal time they wouldn't, but they're so arrogant, the authorities these days, they might go for that priest. I hope they do, because then they'll see, and people who maybe have strayed from the church will soon be back, because nobody will stand back and watch that type of behaviour being perpetrated on a very good and faithful old priest. So, there is resistance, Mr. Griffin. It's popping up, not just in the Supreme Court. Some normal people are actually getting their, getting their blood up and saying, enough's enough, had enough of it, and that's it. So, good signs.
Yeah. Good signs indeed. And I think, Jim, also it's more than just a bit of resistance popping up here and there. I think it's much more widespread than we're being allowed to know. And when it's not just the mainstream media, but also things like Twitter, Facebook and so on, it's all shut down. And remember that while we're already fairly used to operating outside of Facebook, because as you know, we were banned several years ago, Joe Public out there in Britain, the United States, all over, Facebook has been and still is the key point via the key machine whereby they exchange information with their friends. So since Facebook has locked down expression of dissent over coronavirus, as Twitter has, then these people simply aren't exchanging ideas, even if they do something themselves. Yeah. They've got no mechanism to get it out there. But I've seen, especially looking on Telegram, and please, viewers, if you haven't come and followed me on Telegram already, please do. It's just Nick Griffin there. But there's a lot of footage circulating on that, which I think would have been on Twitter and on Facebook only a few months ago, which is now really only there, of demonstrations just from ordinary people. I saw some quite dramatic footage yesterday of ordinary people in Basildon in Essex, basically a suburb of London for American viewers. Several hundred people out in the street with the police, a farcical scene of the police chasing after them, blowing whistles and all sorts, trying to stop them. But they just had enough there. Footage also of some of the, in fact, mainly I think evangelical churches in London, and not just the happy clappy black ones, but more general ones as well, going ahead and having services and just challenging the police, come and shut us down if you want to. And particularly in Catholic countries, Italy is where it's really going off. Archbishop Vigano is doing a most tremendous job with really well worded, well thought out, effective documents against the lockdown, against what he calls the deep church, as in the deep state, but the deep church which has taken over the Vatican and so on. And he's doing a tremendous job, and that's rolling out. And so there's enormous demonstrations. Again, I've seen some footage just an hour or so ago. I'd quite like to have shown it, but as you know, we had techie problems with the stand-in techie there. He's doing his best. But some wonderful footage from a small town in Germany where hundreds of people, a high proportion of the population, is poured out on the streets, having been ordered that they can't go out, they can't sing. So they're all there, out, parading through the streets, no masks, singing, and the police simply can't do anything about it because there's not enough there because it's a small town. So I think there's a lot of this resistance, and there's going to be a lot more.
Yeah, I think you're right. Absolutely, mate. Continue. Now, I see there's somebody on there looking to see how you get in contact with me. I think it says Stephen Harris. Stephen, just go on to your website. The brother here might have to put a link up to the website, because a lot of people know us through YouTube who don't know the website. To the contact page, brother. The contact page. So I'll put you up a contact. You can always contact me. Go on the website, up the top, contact us, send a message there. It will get to me. If I gave you my personal email out here, tomorrow morning I would have 10,000 hideous messages from all sorts of weirdos, devil worshippers, Satanists, witches, and a various assortment of very unpleasant people. So the link's going to go up there for you, and it's not so good when you give your personal email. No, that'd be terrible. So there you go. So we've sent you a link there, sir, and you have a look. Thanks, Lady Rother, for pointing the fella in the right way as well. It's good to see people pay attention. Well, Mr. Griffin, what else have you got today? Because I know you've got a prior appointment running very close to this one, so we don't want to keep you too long.
Yep. Yes, I'm on with a group of youngsters from various European countries on a sort of a big roundtable discussion at 7 o'clock our time. So I've got to flip from one to another. But yeah, one more thing then, Jim. Coming back to Bonnie Scotland for you. And this is a story which, at a certain level, sounds rather farcical, and at a much deeper level, is something really, really sinister. So, yesterday or the day before, the Scottish Parliament, in its infinite wisdom, passed a law which was proposed by a Labour Party vegetarian feminist, and initially the Scottish National Party.
I was going to say there, aren't they all? Aren't they all?
Yes. Yes, indeed. And it came from the Labour Party, and then the Scottish National Party, these fake, basically Marxist nationalists, initially were saying we're not sure, but then they jumped on the bandwagon as well. And the pitiful Conservative Party in Scotland didn't oppose it. So this law was passed unanimously. And this is a law to deal with period poverty for not just women.
Are you talking about the Edwardian period, the Victorian period? What are we talking
about? No, we're talking about period for
menstruation, menstrual poverty.
Yeah, so the giveaway is where the woman who introduced this said that this is for all people who menstruate,
including trans,
so
trans men,
whether women or men. If you want to menstruate, you can do.
Oh dear.
Passed a law whereby it's obligatory for all councils in Scotland to use council taxpayers' money to provide free sanitary products to all women. Now, this isn't just to women in real poverty. You could, turn up and say, well, this is the reason I'm really poor, and please, this is important. It's period products, or it's my kids having food, or whatever. No, this is for all women, unmeans tested. So even the female, allegedly, members of the Scottish Parliament, on their 65 grand basic salary plus expenses a year, they can claim these free period products. And the Scots are announcing that we're very proud to be the first in the world. Now, actually, they're not the first in the world. Remarkably, Wales beat them to it, and earlier this year passed a similar law, but with much less fuss. And in Wales, the rule is that women who can't afford period sanitary towels and so on can go to their local GPs and get them on prescription. But the Scots have gone one further and said in a big show that you can walk into any council offices and get them there, and it'll be illegal for councils not to provide them.
Wow. So
it's wacky, crazy feminist stuff. It's only going to cost £8.7 million a year.
What a bargain.
That's about $10 million. In a country of 5 million, but very aging country of 5 million. So this is probably for about 1 million women and 2 or 3 women who think they're men. That's it. So it's not really going to cost a great deal in the grand scheme of things. But I think, so that's the farcical side. And it highlights the way in which, when they were promoting communism years ago, it was allegedly for the urban industrial working class more than anybody else. And the shock troops of communism were supposed to be the urban industrial working class. Since there is no urban industrial working class in any large numbers, because globalization and their betrayal by the left, the Labour Party and so on, who should have stood up for them, since they've simply effectively vanished, the left have been casting around for a different set of shock troops, a different set of people with grudges and so on, and a different set of theoretical beneficiaries for the largesse that they care to throw down to the masses once they've helped themselves to the really important bits, the worthwhile bits. And that, of course, now, instead of the urban working class, white working class men, it's primarily people of colour and women. And as you know, Jim, I've got nothing at all against women, but their femininity is being weaponised against our society, against our traditions, against the way of running things. And although this story at one level looks farcical, we laugh about it, I'm sure the people watching are also cringing and laughing about it. But at a different level, think about this. But what they've done is to say that here's people in particular need, and because they're in particular need, not least because of the impact of the appalling judgments that the people in power have made in the last few months, and because these women are in particular need, they must be helped means test free at the public expense. Yep. So it's to end period poverty. But if it's true and if it's valid, and now the precedent has been set for period poverty, what about hunger poverty? When there really are families who are relying now, especially in places where the old industrial system has already been destroyed by climate change and globalization, rather climate change measures and globalization measures and COVID measures, There are children also really in poverty. So what about making food something which is provided for everybody who needs it from the state? What about water supplies? What about heating and electricity? So they've set the precedent that anything that people need, which some people can't afford, can be given free to everybody at taxpayers' expense. And if people can't recognise that this is precisely the core of communism, this is from each according to his abilities, the taxpayer can afford to pay, to each according to his needs. And the only way in which what's now going on differs from that old fundamental tenet of Marxian communism is that instead of from each according to his abilities, to each according to his needs, this is from each according to his abilities, to each according to her, his, their, its, we's preferred pronoun. What you've got here is absolutely a precedent for communism in a modern post-industrial state, and all the progressives all over the world, and you bet your life, particularly the Democrats in the United States of America, probably won't be to call it that very much longer, but the Democrats are looking at this and thinking to themselves, yep, that is the sort of thing we are going to roll out in the United States. Pure, unadulterated.
It is.
Communism.
And I notice there's an absence there. The government want to pay for all this stuff for women. But listen, where I live, there's a thing called whiskey poverty and cigar poverty, yes. And I would like to know how they are going to address this horrible thing that's caused so much pain and anguish amongst me. Whiskey poverty. Can I go to council and ask for some nice Glenmorangie or a nice malt somewhere from Islay or something, or a lovely, lovely cigar? No. So again, it's not only communism, but it's racism and sexism. It's because I'm Scottish,
yes.
It's because I'm male, that I am not being helped with my dire need, Mr. Griffin. I'm outraged.
Well, there is possibly a solution to that, Jim, and that's if instead of drinking whiskey, you take up smack and start snorting industrial quantities of stuff, get yourself addicted, get yourself completely wrecked, then you'll be able to go and get it free on the state or the methadone instead.
Yes.
So, yeah, there is a role for the white male as long as he destroys himself
Many
first.
of my countrymen have done it. They're all on the methadone now. Yes, Scotland has like 100,000 heroin addicts. Yes, many of them. Many Scots are ahead of the curve on this.
Yeah, absolutely so. You have to be not wrecked for one night. You have to wreck your life.
Oh, aye. I've got several family members have done it very successfully. Now, the whole thing is utter nonsense, but it is communism, you're right, and this is communism. And communism isn't normally imposed on people just like that. People are sucked into it bit by bit. It's like boiling the frog, as we spoke about today, Mr. Griffin. You put the frog in the water, then you just turn the heat up gradually, and before you know where you are, the frog's boiled, cooked alive, never even noticed it. That's what's happening to the West. But this is the only antidote to communism, and that's the book of God. It's called the Holy Bible. This is a magic amulet. If you keep this close to you, communism can't get you. I'm not being facetious, I'm being deadly serious. If you have this book and you read this book, you cannot be infected with communism. How simple is that, folks? The antidote to communism is here, the Bible.
Actually, Jim, following on from that, directly on from that, it's not even that if you have the Bible and Christianity, you cannot be infected with communism. In the days when communism was a real, obvious, aggressive menace in the way that it's about to become a game, but in the first wave of this, in the 1930s, 40s, 50s and so on, there was a significant number of really important communists, certainly in Britain. There was particularly a man called Douglas Reed, who was the editor of the Daily Worker, the editor of their newspaper. And he was told by the bosses of the party, we've got a bit of a problem with Catholic social doctrine, still being a block to us spreading communism, particularly in the Irish community in Britain and so on. And so we need you to rubbish this Catholic social doctrine, distributism, the Chesterton-Belloc theories and so on. We need you to get into and rubbish these. So please have a series of articles in the Daily Worker explaining how this Christian-based social doctrine is false consciousness and a fascist hoax, etc., etc. And Douglas Reed started, in order to better attack it, he started to read it and study it. And he writes in his autobiography, I believed, which used when I was a lad, it was available for sort of tenpence a throw in every single bookshop and charity shop in the United Kingdom. It's harder to get these days, but it's a great book. And he wrote in that how, as he read these Catholic social doctrine ideas and why they were opposed to communism and how there's a better way, that he realised over the course of a few months that this wasn't something to attack, this was something to embrace. And he became a very famous and high-profile convert from communism to traditional Catholicism. And he was by no means the only one. As I say, there was a lot of very serious, high-profile communists who would who were cured of their communism by the Bible, by Christianity, and by true belief. So it inoculates people from getting it, and it also can save people who've got it. Quite a remarkable book.
Amen. I couldn't say better myself. Well, that's a very good day. I know you've got to go and do another show, Mr. Griffin. Let's thank you very much for coming on. Lovely to hear what you've got to say. And it is a big worry in America, but I guess we're going to see what we're going to see. What will be, will be. Que sera, sera. Whatever happens, we are kitted out. We are armoured. And we have the full armour of God on us. We have the breastplate of righteousness. And we have this Bible, which is sharper than any two-edged sword. So we'll be okay whatever happens, but it is a worry, and I don't want the people in America worrying today. This is Thanksgiving Day. Forget about it all. Concentrate on your families and your nice time together. Well, Mr. Griffin, thank you very much. We'll see you again next week.
Thank you, Jim.
If you don't mind.
See you next week.
And God bless you, and I hope your other interview thing goes well as well. And give all the regards to anybody who's on there, our European brothers from the Templars. Okay.
Will do.
God bless
Thank
you.
you.
Cheers. Okay, interesting. Very good as usual. Interesting stuff. But this giving away free sanitary towels and all that, I mean, where's it all going to end? I mean, imagine if our grandparents come back from the grave and seen where we are now. They would have a fit. Now, speaking of graves, I want to bring you a very special thing today, because it is Thanksgiving Day, and it's a day when you remember back 400 something years, okay, to the people who, especially I'm talking to the Americans in particular here, but not just the Americans. But you remember back 400 years to the Pilgrim Fathers and all these people. I say many of them coming from my own community, which is very important. But that sense of immortality, because we still know the names of those men today. We still know what happened to them. We still know the story. And it's, you know, it's quite an amazing thing. And why is that? Because it was an event, it's documented, people talk about it, people know about it. Now, we recently, you're still, I can still hear Mr. Griffin through my ears. Can anybody else hear me? No? Okay. So, very disturbing that, you know. So this is why out the whole world we constructed the Magdalene Chapel here for people of our order who depart this life and their spouses. You don't have to go in there bodily. We don't have the room for that. But people wanted their ashes there, but not just ashes, because a lot of people don't believe in this cremation, but just maybe a lock of their hair, or even a plaque in there in a special space assigned to you and you alone, and that will be there until the Lord returns. And remember, we live in such an uncertain time now. You don't know where your remains could end up. They could end up in a bin. They could end up thrown away to the four winds. They could end up in a graveyard full of the enemy. They could end up who knows where. And you've forgotten about for all eternity, earthly wise. But through this little Magdalene Chapel next to our chapter house behind our St. Donald's Priory in Ireland, you can be there for all eternity, and your ancestors, because we don't know what's going to happen in America. There could be 5 Americas in 20 years' time. There could be civil war, death, destruction, and your loved ones' remains might be somewhere where you can never go and see them again. So we did this little chapel, the Magdalene Chapel for the glorious dead. So the people, Templar people, can get their remains in there, or even a representation of their remains, like a lock of hair or something like this. And your family, no matter what happens in the future, it could be 400 years from now, same distance between us and the Pilgrim Fathers, from now until your ancestors can come here. They can get into the chapter house. They can actually read in the book of life, the big book we've got there, a full account of your life, because you are given a full page in there you have to do now. And we will put it in there so when you die it's there. And your bloodline can come and see that. They can worship in the chapel. They can take your box down. They can hold whatever you've put in there. And they could stay here in the Priory and have a lovely time. And it could be so important in the future for that sense of continuity, you see. Because America's a young country. We need a sense of where we come from. Where are we? Who do we belong to? And you could give that to your bloodline. And that's why we have built this thing. We're in the process of building it. We're looking at the day, actually. It's insane. With the chapter house, we've built the walls about this thick. It's utterly ridiculous. I had no idea until I looked at it. I thought, good grief. So we're putting windows in at the moment, and it's just ridiculous because the walls are about this thick, I don't know, 2 feet, but 24, 28 inches thick. But we're not building it for a joke. We're not building it to last 70 years as most house builders think. We're building this to last 1,000 years because remember, the stones in this building come from the Cistercian Abbey, which was built in 1199, time of the Templars, which in turn was built on top of St Patrick's Little Church, which was built round about 430 AD. This is a great continuity and continuation throughout the eons of time and centuries that have passed, and we want you to be part of that. We don't want your name to die with you and fade away into distant memory. We've already had some brothers just booked in the chapel and died. They have assured that they're in there and their name will reverberate down through the centuries. Because we're in a very remote part of Ireland, nothing much changes here. There won't be any threat of nuclear attack here or anything like that. We're on the shores of a loch, which is beautiful, peaceful. There's not a lot happens in Ireland, as you know. Sometimes we kill each other, but other than that, we don't destroy things, and people are very stable. We have 4 or 5 monastery sites here going back over 1,000 years. We have St Patrick's grave 5-6 miles from where I'm sitting right now. So that's where we're coming from. And we've got this. So we want to put up, you'll see there's a link up there, book your place in the Magdalene Chapel. And we want to make this a Thanksgiving, real big event for Thanksgiving. As you sit and thank God, what better way can you mark Thanksgiving Day? So rather than stuff your face with turkey, which is okay, but we do that. Do something this year that really means something, that will mean something to your wife, to your sons, to your daughters, to your grandsons, your granddaughters. Do something that actually means something that has actual gravitas, and it is an act of devotion and a real thanksgiving to God by supporting something that is bigger than you, it's bigger than me, and that transcends national boundaries, transcends denominations, something that actually is tangible, real, and with a serious amount of gravitas that you then gift to your family, your wife, your sons and daughters, your grandsons, and your great-great-great-great-grandsons and daughters. How many human beings can do that in their life? You go through life, you die, that's it, it's gone, you're over. Within a generation, nobody can remember your name. How many times have you sat at the dinner table and said, who was my grandfather's father? Most people don't know. Well, through the Magdalene Chapel and being in there and the family have receiving a big, big plaque telling you where you are, where you went there, what you're all about, that's never going to happen to you. You're there. And that will be, some part of the family will know about it, and you will be remembered. Your name will be remembered. You've been in that chapel with your comrades. Some hymns are sung and chanting is done every single day of the year, 365. Every single day of the year, without bar none. So, when you think about that and what's there, it's something that today, this is a special day for Americans, understand that. Why not mark this day? Celebrate this day. Celebrate the history of your own nation and the history of those men who came to America to form a new world. Celebrate that and mark it by getting yourself into the Magdalene Chapel. The link is there. I am personally, Jim Dowson, I am inviting you today to get signed up to the Magdalene Chapel. Will you do it? We shall see. I hope you do it. Please do something that is tangible. You might not see the benefit particularly now, but your grandkids and your great-grandkids will think, oh my goodness, I'm so glad he did this. He chose to do this, because what a continuity we've got. And thinking of new people they'll meet. They'll come to Ireland, they'll meet new people, new friends, they'll meet Templars. They'll be amongst people that maybe a world they never knew about. And that is a wonderful gift to bestow upon your bloodline for the future. Don't you agree? Well, if you do, on this Thanksgiving Day, I am personally inviting you to sign up to the Magdalene Chapel. I think the brother will put another wee link up there just in case anybody has missed it. But just let it sink in for a minute. Just let it sink in. It's so vital that we keep a sense of belonging and a sense of continuity. Because I'll tell you, what's coming to your countries, especially America, is going to break up everything and smash everything. So where is the continuity? Where is the comfort blanket? Where is the lineage? Well, through the Magdalen Chapel of the Glorious Dead, there will be lineage, there will be continuity, and your great-great-grandsons will know exactly where they come from and know exactly who you were and the important role you played in this order. I can't say any more than that. Can't say any more than that. But God bless each and every one of you. Sorry I didn't mention anybody today, but you know you are in my thoughts and prayers this day. The red light's flashing. I hear tell. Thanks very much. We're going to blow up. But I don't want to take up any more of your time. Go and have a lovely day. Love your elderly. Love your young. Have time for each other. Love one another. And above all things, love this book and love your Creator, God Almighty, and your Saviour, Christ Jesus, who bled and died for sinners such as us. God bless America. Have a lovely Thanks Day. And God willing, I'll see you again tomorrow on the Templar Report. Until then, stick close to God. You won't go far wrong. Do us vault.